Good evening, everybody. It is Thursday night, and we are here for night two of the Exceptional Woman's Reboot. And so we welcome you on tonight. We are excited about our topic on tonight. It's something everybody, I'm sure, wants to talk about love and relationships in 2021. We have been in the midst of a pandemic, and so there's even more to discuss. And we have a guru with us tonight to help us to navigate the waters, whether you're single, married, recently divorced, in a situationship, whatever the case is, we're going to get some knowledge on tonight. So we want to welcome you first. Before we get to introducing our speaker, you may say, what is the Exceptional Woman's Reboot? Well, first of all, the exceptional woman is the woman that chooses to live above the standard, that wants to have a life that is exceeding beyond what most people would say is the good life. And so we are looking at every area of our lives, trying to figure out what needs to be done to reboot us. Most of us started this year with many goals and we started vision boards and did all these things. We came out of 2020 saying that this year was going to be a better year than last year, most definitely. And so we wanted to offer some tools on tonight and the night that we had last Thursday and going forward through the rest of this month. Every Thursday at 8 o'clock, we'll have a different coach that'll come in and help us in a different area of our lives. So on tonight, we have the fortunate pleasure to have with us certified relationship coach, Trinette Collier Greene. And so I'm going to read her bio and then we're going to jump into some questions because I know people got a lot of things they want to know about. And so I believe she is the one that can help us to understand how to reboot that area of our lives, whether it's relationship with ourselves, relationship with somebody else, or getting over a bad relationship. So I think all of us can figure out which way one of those categories we fit in. So Trinette is a native of Los Angeles, California, and she's a nationally renowned educator, entrepreneur, and author. In November of 2013, Ms. Greene added to her notoriety and became a published author, debuting her award-winning book, Woman on Fire. And in 2016, she added to her success the release of her second book entitled Sticky Notes. They said what? Classic Classroom Comedy Volume 1 and has released Volume 2 of Sticky Notes series. Ms. Greene is also a certified relationship coach and has coined the title Inspirationalist. She is the owner of Trinette L. Collier LLC, which provides workshops and ideas for groups and individuals. She also provides weekly relationship coaching via her podcast, Woman on Fire, and radio show, You've Got Mail, Messages from Him. She resides in the metro Atlanta area and with her husband, Chef Greene. And so later on, she's going to give you all of the places where you can follow her so that you can get some information going forward. And if you're looking for a relationship coach, she can tell you how to connect with her. So I ask you to help me welcome Trinette Collier Greene. Welcome to the Exceptional Woman Reboot 2021.
Hey, how are you? Thank you so much for having me. Thank you
I'm
so much.
excited. I'm excited.
I
Relationship
am.
guru.
Like, I'm gonna take that. Guru, I'm gonna take it. Let you know
Anybody
when you've
that
been through
gets
some
to
things.
have a radio show and talking about males and being the only female sometimes on the panel, I'm like, hey, she knows something.
You know, when you go through some things in life, you start thinking like, hey, you know what? I'm an expert right now.
Earn the degree through life's journey
Yes,
on that.
yes.
So you've definitely been through some things we share in common that we've both been through. And so
Yeah.
I think that you definitely have what it takes to help people really understand relationships with themselves as well as with others. So I want to start first with just tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got started as a relationship coach, what made you pick this particular passion as your area of specialty.
Actually, I got started when actually a teacher, full-time teacher, and that was my calling, my career. I went to school with for that, and over time, you have this path of you just know that you're going to be in this career. You go to school, you graduate, and you make this plan out. I'm gonna retire. You just have it out mapped out, and over time. I noticed that while I was in the classroom, my colleagues would come to me early in the morning or after school and just want to talk, just talk, or they just confide in me. And so that coaching actually, I didn't see it, actually started in the classroom, and I'm like, why does everyone want to talk to me? I didn't profess to be I just love listening to people. And I just really always love helping people because the ultimate goal for me is for everyone to find some peace in their life. Everybody wants love, joy, and happiness. And I just always felt like I can fix that. I would try all kinds of ways to find solutions for folks. You just want to do everything, want to help folks. I just really hated to see people sad and depressed over relationships and so forth. And even though I was going through relationship issues, I didn't want other people to have to experience that. So it actually started in the classroom, but officially I did not take that journey until about 2013, 14. I was like, you know what, I really enjoy people, and people were constantly coming to me. And so that made me go ahead and pursue a program, enroll in academy creative coaching. And I was like, oh wow, this is a new career. And at that time I'm just like, Lord, am I actually switching careers from teaching, like it was, but I enjoyed. So that's how it started.
Well, I think a lot of times we have to look at things are birthed out of our own experience, and they're birthed
Hmm.
out. We start to realize, like, this is my passion, that I really want to help people because I have experienced this. And I don't
Yeah.
want anybody else to have to struggle because I have something that I can offer. And so I think that's quite healthy. And we also need to realize that there is a need.
Yeah.
There is a big need. I mean, from learning how to love yourself to learning how to deal
Yeah.
with marriage and divorce or all these
Yeah.
other things, that there's a need for people to be able to go and seek wisdom of how to move forward. As we know, in coaching is to take you forward. It's not to take you back into something, but to take you forward.
Exactly.
So I think one of the places that we should start with that is dealing with self. A
Hmm.
lot of people think that, oh, I want a relationship. But the first place is to start with that relationship with self. So as we are talking to women, we are
Hmm.
easy to get into relationships with everybody from our mama, friends, everybody else. We
Yeah.
want these relationships. But what about the relationship with self? What does that look like? How do you build a relationship with yourself?
Hmm. That's a great question, Coach. And that's something that I had to learn over time. When I went into coaching, of course, my my passion is helping people build healthy relationships with everyone else. But then all of a sudden it started taking a twist. I said, well, you can't have a healthy relationship with everyone else if you don't have a healthy relationship with yourself. So I had to learn throughout my journey. I needed to rebuild my relationship, with me after going through a divorce, and just going through other relationships in the past, with my siblings, with my family, all of that. I had to really deal with me first, and in order for me to deal with everyone else. So that is very crucial. It's very essential. You got to start with yourself. And many times we don't want to do that. We don't want to look at ourselves. We don't want to go through that journey. We don't want to go through that process of healing. And let me tell you, it is not an easy process. And that's what scares a lot of people. So you end up jumping back into these relationships, these toxic relationships, and you're trying to make them work. But the reality is, you haven't dealt with your own issues. So, how are you going to bring somebody else into the equation and you haven't dealt with yourself? So, for me, dealing with self first is very essential. It is just like the major key component of healthy relationships.
And when we start talking about that, a lot of times people are like, well, what does that look like? How do I start to even build that relationship with myself? I understand it. Yeah, I may need to do it. And what are some of those, I say, warning signs or those indicators that's telling you you need to kind of look at yourself? And it doesn't even have
Yeah.
to be in a romantic way of a failed
Mm.
relationship. It could be how you deal with your siblings or how you deal with your coworkers. But what are
Mhm.
some one indicators that you might need to look at yourself, but also how do you start that process?
Well, when you and I always use me as an example. I remember I was a people pleaser. I'm a people pleaser, and I say I'm still am because I still like, it's part of me, part of my growth. I still look back and I say, oh wow, I'm still trying to please people, so I'm working on that.
Mhm,
But before, I aim to please people, on everything. I was trying to make everybody else happy, but I wasn't happy. So that's number one. When you're really trying to make others happy and you're not happy, that's a sign to say, oh, wait a minute, something is not right because I'm agreeing with everybody else and with whatever they're doing. And I'm like over here hating the decision or whatnot, but just to please them, I'm going to roll with it. So that is that is the huge indicator for me that that is something that you should be looking at. If you are really pleasing others to and making them happy and you're not happy, we have to change those dynamics. So that is like the major component. You have to really learn who you are in your relationship, and you have to understand, like, okay, well, and it's okay to say I don't like that. There was an exercise I had to do with a friend, and she's not a coach or anything. And she asked me, she said, Trinette, what are some things you like? And so I was so used to telling people I love journals, I love candles, because I really do. But you know what, Coach Evita, one day it came to, and actually my husband now, he taught me this lesson. He asked me when we first dating, and he said, well, what you want for Christmas? And I was like, oh, you don't have to get me anything but just a journal and a candle. And I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe he's gonna get me other stuff.
mhm,
And Coach, do you know that he got me exactly what I asked for? And so, I said, well, Christmas came around. I said, well, I'm thinking I'm gonna get a bit. He said, you don't like it? And I said, no, I do like it. And inside I was kind of confused because I'm like, okay, he should have known, but he told me, and my girlfriend told me, she said, he didn't know what you wanted because you said a candle in a journal. And he told me you wanted a candle in a journal. So he went to go get a nice
mhm,
candle in a nice journal. But I really was expecting maybe like a purse or some shoes or something else. He said, no, that's what you asked for. That was the first time I ever looked at myself and said, oh, you really have to know yourself.
mhm,
And if you don't, other people are going to make these assumptions. They're going to create your life. And then that's when we begin to have a tight relationship with ourselves because we become angry, we're upset, we're depressed, we're trying to figure out what is wrong with me, why can't, because we spent so many days and nights crying over the other relationships. But honestly, it comes from you, because if you don't set those boundaries, if you don't set those expectations, then guess what other people are going to do? They're going to treat you the same way you're treating yourself. So
mhm.
that was for me, that was the indicator, like, oh, wait a minute, I need to just I need to do some healing. I need to do, look at some more things before I can get into another relationship or whatnot. So even though I had married, and I just found this out, years, just a few years back, it was like, oh, okay, so let me go back to the drawing board. Let me see what I'm missing, because there was another component prior to that. Before I got married, I had to take a look at myself, but I missed that part. You
Mhm.
see what I'm saying? So it's like a process that we're going to go through. So you're not going to get it all at once, but those key components, you have to really learn who you are, and you have to set those boundaries and those expectations.
And it's interesting you talked about people pleasing because that feeds off of what we even discussed last week with dealing with mental and emotional health. That
Mm-hmm.
that's a mental health challenge because we are
Yes.
always people pleasing and end up being toxic to ourselves. And then
Yes.
we try to build a picture of a life we want based
Mm-hmm.
off of that faulty or um, skewed dynamic.
Yeah.
Think it's very important, as you were saying, and we're talking about having a life reboot or this particular area, that how do I recreate my life or reinvent my life
Yeah.
and deal with first, I have to look at myself and become
Yeah.
okay with, do I like
Mm-hmm.
the person that I am? Am I really asking for what I want? And that
Yes.
then too, when we look at even people who are in relationships right now, one of the
Mm-hmm.
things about women is we're easy to serve other people to the
Mm-hmm.
point that we lose ourselves. And
Yeah.
so now the question becomes, what would advice or what coaching or what tools would you give somebody who's now trying to figure out, how do I rediscover myself, even within this confines of a relationship, whether it's a marriage, parenting, all of these things that we lose ourselves in. How do we learn to get ourselves back?
Yeah. And that's an awesome question because we do as women, especially, we lose ourselves and it's, before you know it, life takes over and you're doing this, you're doing that. And I don't have any children, but business, teaching, and I'm trying to, hang out with my friends and my family and church and all this. And then you just sit back, you be like, well, who am I? You start like, who am I? What am I doing? And you really you have to take that time. Um, you have to unplug. I tell women, unplug. And I had one client, she's a mother. She said, "You just don't understand. You don't have any children." I said, "You're right. I don't, because there's a different dynamic." I said, "However, we're still women. And you, as a woman, when you're flying on an airplane, they tell you, if in case of an emergency, what do you do first? You have to put that mask on you first and then put it on your children and your spouse or whatnot." And I said, "You have to use that same concept, because you're not going to be any good to your family if you don't take care of yourself." So, you have to step back, you have to unplug. And unplugging sometimes meaning unplugging from your family, from your friends, from activities, and just taking a breather. And that means sometimes you have to tell people, "Hey, I am unplugging. Give me a few days or give me a few hours." It's whatever you desire. And you have to build that in so others can understand and say, "Oh, wait a minute, she's taking some time." Even with your children, mommy needs to unplug for a moment. Just give me a moment so I can breathe, so that I can, I can come up for air.
Mhm.
You want to come up for air so you can breathe. And so, I tell women, step back. It's okay to say no. And I know that is so hard for us. It is so difficult. It was difficult for me. And it's still sometimes a little challenging. But guess what? I have learned, and I'm loving it. I'm loving saying, you know what? I won't be able to do that. Or you know what? Or just sitting back when you used to think, "Oh, they didn't invite me." Or you just be like, "You know what? I really didn't need to go here or there. I really need to unplug." So we have to, and we also have to listen to our bodies.
Mhm.
As women, we carry stress. And
Yes.
you're a coach, wellness coach. So the stress can make us sick in so many areas. So we have to learn how to listen to our bodies. And that's something I had to do in this season. I had to learn to listen to my body, because the stress, I was so overwhelmed with life and trying to do the business and trying to, finish off my career and teaching and being married and all of this. And I became overwhelmed. And so I had to just say, "Okay, you know what, Lord, I'm about to lose it." Like, I had to be honest, and I just had to scream one day. And I said, "Oh," and he showed me, he said, "You have to step back. And
Mhm.
it's okay to unplug. Like, turn off that social media, turn off that phone." Like, the first time I literally turned off the phone and laid it, put it in a drawer, I think I was having a little attack, because I'm like, "Okay, I can't get to emails. I can't do this, that, and another." But it felt so good, coach.
Yeah.
It felt so good. I was able to just like, so now I set my timer
Mhm.
by 8:30, 9:30. I'm unplugging. So we have to set those boundaries for ourselves so other people can start respecting that. And other people can say, "Oh, wait a minute. She values her life. She values her time. So I need to respect that too." If you tell someone don't call you after 10:30, or you set that
Mhm.
tone, guess what? They're not going to do that because you had to set it first.
I think that's a very critical thing that we have to learn, and our society doesn't give us that. As women, we're not
Mhm.
taught that from little girls forward, and so we give everything to every relationship, from family
Yeah.
to romantic to business, and then we get to a place where we experience that burnout.
Mhm.
As you say, it's unplugging. I call it. I tell people, I'm giving you the public service announcement. Here's the announcement. I am shutting off. And
Yeah.
you start to have that itch because you turn off everything. But you
Right.
realize that oftentimes we frame our lives and our
Mhm.
relationships based on what we see online, what
Mhm.
we see
Mhm.
everybody else doing. We hashtag relationship goals and all of this stuff.
Right.
And we are killing ourselves and not
Yes.
realizing that it's self-care.
Yes.
And in my self-care, I'm becoming better for my relationship, because
Yes.
now I can serve from that full cup because I did take
Mhm.
that time to step back.
Yeah.
I want to talk about that whole thing since we're talking about love and relationships,
Yeah.
from single and married, that
Mhm.
hashtag relationship goals. Everybody can go and scroll through TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, whatever you're
Mhm.
on, and they're like, oh, this person, look at this and look at that and look at this and look at that.
Mhm.
And so then it turns into relationship goals. And then you take that stuff home. And if you're
Yes.
single, this is what I want. If you're married, this is what our marriage should be like.
Mhm.
Address relationship goals. And as we are
Yeah.
talking about building and rebooting our lives, and some of us are revisiting vision boards of what we want, let's delve into
Yeah.
relationships.
Look, I'm gonna go sister girl with you on this one because I'm like, honey, these relationship goals, okay, and I get the concept, I get it, because these are goals that you think that we should have, but what you have to learn, I'll call them relationship realities, because your reality, your goal is going to look different from mine. When I was single, I think that's when social media was just coming about, it was becoming popular, and the relationship goal hashtag was, surfacing. And I remember saying, you know what? I want this kind of boyfriend, and we're gonna go travel, we're gonna do all these things. And but that wasn't my reality. My reality was I wasn't able to get into a relationship after my divorce. It
Mhm,
took me 8 years to unplug and to detach myself and to heal. I
mhm,
had to heal. So I couldn't get right into a relationship. And then when I did, it was still a shocker to me because I'm like, uh, I'm in a relationship. So what is social media what we supposed to be doing now? Because we done went to dinner. we, we went on a trip, So these things, you know, uh, it they look good, but that's not your reality because life happens. And so a relationship goes doesn't add in life.
mhm,
And so, you're like, oh, okay. So now we're headed towards. So I went, you go from being single, and if you're desiring to be into a relationship, a stable relationship, like marriage, now you're thinking, okay, so what's next? I'm praying. I prayed for a boyfriend. I prayed for, this mate, and now I'm getting married. So what now? Relationship goes. Okay, what now? We get married. What am I supposed to do? Begin again, if we keep our eyes focused on society and the world, it's going to tell you that it's supposed to look like this, but the reality of it doesn't. And so it confuses a lot of us, a lot of women, especially in that range where it's like, okay, I'm trying to get in a healthy relationship, and they're saying there's no reality sets in, and you have to, again, you have to set those boundaries, you have to set those expectations, and you have to keep your eyes focused because we miss the mark. And I say we because I was once there. I was once that woman who was like, you know what, Lord, I want this kind of man. I want that kind of man. I want him to have this, that, and other. But he sends them in a different package, and that just throws us all off. According to our plan and our vision board, honey, that man that we have pent up with that car and that job, and then here come God giving it to you in a whole different package, and you're just like messed up. You're like, Oh, right. You're looking like, so wait a minute, Lord, what happened? So again, I tell women, take your eyes off of the world. It has to, now this process has to include you and God all the way, because again, if you're trying to build a healthy relationship, God has to be in that equation. So it's going to look different from relationship goals. It's going to look different from those hashtags and social media and whatnot, because you really have to become one with him, so that he can give you what you need. And a lot of times we look at you, we're looking at people, we're looking at others and their mates, and I found out in this season, when I was getting married, I said, "Oh, Lord gave me what I needed for the journey that I'm going on." And it's still what I wanted, but I had to turn that around. And a lot of us don't want to acknowledge that. It's like, well, he's supposed to. I'm like, no, you have to let God do what he's supposed to do with your relationships. And even with building your relationships with your family and your friends. I remember my mom and I, we had it wasn't a rocky relationship, but you know how you're two grown women, you're trying to get to know each other. And my mom always still saw us as little Trinette, so she still hadn't accepted us, just like my grandmother, they still did not accept me as grown Trinette. And I'm like,
Right.
my dear, I'm 45 years old. Like I know I'm your oldest grand. But so we even had to learn how to have that relationship. And
Mhm.
again, I had to set those boundaries and those expectations. And I had to understand where they were coming from as grandmother and mama, but they also had to understand where I was coming from as daughter and granddaughter, and say, okay, so again, it's setting those expectations. You have to put those boundaries in place, and you really have to give your relationships over to God, because it was God that healed all of my relationships, and it's still healing the
Mhm.
relationships. And people don't think of that. They're like, God in relation? Yes. If you're asking to build a healthy, non-toxic relationship, who else can do it? Because he knows us. He knows
Exactly.
the other person. And a lot of times relationships, they go through bumpy rides and so forth. And it could be just little things like miscommunication, or you just really just don't know how to be a good sister, a mother. You don't know how to be a good partner or any of that, because you're still learning. We didn't come out the womb with a manual on how to have a relationship,
Yeah.
you know. So we end up building it over time, based on our experiences. So yeah, my main the two components, you definitely have to set those what is it that you want out of your relationships? Sometimes we don't answer that. It's like, what is it that you want out of this relationship? We just gravitate towards other women. Oh, that's my girlfriend and we hanging out, but what is it that you're expecting out of this relationship?
Mhm.
you know what you see on TV is not going, if that's what you're expecting, like, the reality shows, I ain't gonna give them the name, but if that's the kind of relationships you're expecting and wanting, guess what's going to happen? You're going to get everything that comes with that type of relationship. So that's why I tell people, you can have a non-toxic healthy relationship. You really can.
I think you brought up some things, and especially we can address it from this pandemic state.
Mm,
There have been people who have had to be alone for a long period of time.
yes, yes,
There are people who have had to be with their spouse for a long period of time. Like, we work from
yes,
home, we're at home, we can't go anywhere, we're here. And
yeah.
we have never really, I think we romanticize so much. We romanticize
Hmm.
single life, we romanticize married life. And so
Hmm.
the problems start to come in because we haven't started to evaluate what are our boundaries.
Yes.
Even more importantly, who are we? Because
Hmm.
we know the person that we presented or was
Hmm.
presented to us. But what happens when you're in the house by yourself all
Woo.
the time? What happens when now the two of you who have busy schedules and so you only maybe get to spend 30 minutes to an hour with each other a
Yes,
day are now seeing each other from
yes.
now? How would you address these issues now with people who are having to really come to terms with a lot of stuff that may have transpired, either that um, maybe some depression that came out of being by themselves,
Mm-hmm.
not really knowing themselves, not knowing how to navigate being alone,
Yeah.
and to the married couple who now may be in a difficult situation because they're like, I've not spent this much time with you. I don't even know you. And
Yeah.
so now I'm kind of like not even cool with this you. So,
And that was the reality. And along with my coaching, I'm transparent. I tell people that's something God has, and I'm like, Lord, you want me to be transparent? Like, you're so used to keeping things under wraps, but to be honest, the pandemic it was a challenge for me and my husband because again, you're so used to, I'm at school, I'm at work from 7 o'clock till 3 or 4, and he's an entrepreneur, so his schedule, he's flexible.
mm,
So now all of a sudden we're in this apartment together 24/7. I'm now teaching from home. He's like, okay, his schedule is flexible, but he still has to go to sleep. I'm in the living room, screaming to the kids, teaching. And it was a challenge as a married couple, and this is going in our fourth year. But you would think, it's like, oh, well, we're gonna, spend this time together. We're gonna be able to get to know each other. Girl, let me tell y'all, my husband kept saying, he said, y'all not going back to the classroom yet? I was like, I don't know. I was ready to go back to the classroom because it was a big adjustment. You
mhm,
didn't prepare for this. You're really thinking, you're really thinking like, oh, okay, well, I don't mind spending all this time with my mate. But the reality was like, um, I love him. He loves me, but I need a little space. And for us, it was like, okay, we don't live in that house where you can go downstairs in the basement or whatnot. So it was limited. So, and I know a lot of other couples that were going through the same thing because I was like, what are y'all doing? We done played out all the games. Like, we can't play any more games. Like, what the get to know your partner games. He don't want to play that no more. So we really had to be honest, I had to go into prayer.
mm,
And when I was talking to some of my single friends, it really touched me because it now they were alone, in this pandemic, being at home by themselves. And so, I was thinking, I was like, oh wow, that in itself was difficult because now you can't meet up with your girlfriends, or you can't, you can only do so many Zooms. It's like it's not
true.
the same as that human interaction.
Mhm,
So for me, I had to start. I had to set the example, and I'm still doing it. It's like I had to go to God in prayer and say, Lord, what? How am I supposed to do this? Because I'm a relationship coach, and I'm trying to teach people how to build relationships, but I'm like, this is not cool. Like, I love my husband and he loves me, but we're having a little difficulty. So I really had to seek him in showing us how to handle this because it did take a toll. And so I started sharing this with my single friends. I was like, okay, so let's go into prayer about how to utilize our time,
mhm,
how to deal with the loneliness, because that was the reality
yeah,
of this pandemic. Um, and for those couples who were already in that place where it's like, okay, they can go to the next level, that's kudos. But for couples who were just starting out and who were just still learning about each other, it was a big deal. Like, so I just remember one night I just went into my little closet and I just cried. I said, Lord, I don't know what to do. I said, because he's tired of me, I'm tired of him. We can't go anywhere. We can, we've ordered out, we've cooked together, we've done all these things together. And that's when God showed me it's okay. Just breathe. It's okay. And give your relationship over to him. And what that meant was let him guide us into what we're supposed to do. If it's a game that we're supposed to play, then he's gonna make my spouse he's going to allow my spouse to be to receive that moment, that alone time, because it was one time I was forcing him to play. Come on, I got a new game. I just ordered from Amazon. We're going to play. He was looking at me like, look, I'm tired. He's like, you'd have been in my face all day like this, you know. So, and that can hurt your feelings a little bit
Yeah.
where it's like, wait a minute, I'm all excited. But God had to guide me into showing me how to navigate through the pandemic and to navigate in the relationship, and say it's okay for you to have that alone time with yourself. And this was a time for me to go into prayer. This was a time for me to do some things that I hadn't had a chance to do. So I was able to pick up some hobbies, to work on some business things, and then still have that, create that balance for me and him.
Mm.
So I had to just step back. And that's what I was sharing with my single friends. I said, now this is the moment where God has placed some things in you that you were supposed to have been doing. Now is the time to utilize this time to do those things. So that's how you had to kind of navigate through the pandemic. But I tell people, it was not easy for me. They were like, oh, I said, yeah, that was just our reality, because it was brand new. It was brand new for everybody.
Yes.
You're now being at home stuck, you know, and for us, we're in a one-bedroom apartment. So you can imagine, like, he's gonna go out on the balcony, or we're gonna go to the car. So, I'm in the bathroom, in the
Go
closet, or
somewhere.
what. Right. So, you really have to consult with God on your relationship with yourself and with your family and your mates, your spouses, and so forth, to help you through just the any situations. And it sounds, we say pray about it, but you really do have you pray about it, and you allow him to do the work. And the work doesn't look like what we're thinking is going to be.
And I think that brings up for us a lesson for those who may be married who are still feeling some of that tension because, yeah, things are opening back up, but there were
Yeah.
things that happened in that process. And so,
Yeah.
not to quickly just run back to life as you knew it and ignore that there was an issue, but really
Mhm.
start to evaluate, well, what happened? And
Mhm.
now
Mhm.
we need to submit these things to God. We need
Yeah.
to hear what the answers are and figure out, how do we heal from this?
Yes.
Because the quick
Yes.
thing for people, and this really takes us into another area of relationships, is they immediately like, well, now that things are open back up, we're either going to go back to business as usual and ignore each other, separate,
Mhm.
or even divorce.
Mhm. Mhm.
Both you and I have been through divorce. We know
Yes.
how I would not wish it upon anyone. Um,
Right.
but people understanding, when do you, what, I guess the question would be, how do you know that it's worth working on versus now it's time to part ways? Because
Yeah.
there are some people who are
That's a
in
good.
that limbo.
Yeah. That's a great question. And because I remember, I think in the very beginning, and I was watching the news, and they were talking about the divorce rate was increasing.
Hmm.
And I said, I can honestly see how. I said, because think about, we've never spent this much time with our mates.
Right.
And, we're all, like you said, we're always gone. Somebody's out the door, or, you're coming back and at, whatever hours. And so now we're forced to be with each other. For us, we knew that, okay, this was just a test. Um, and again, going back to that prayer, I had to say, Lord, show me, like, really show me if this is what I'm supposed, because I'm not gonna lie, there was a moment where I was like, okay, is this gonna be a divorce? Are we gonna end up in a divorce? Because we're not talking to each other. Like, we're so tense that we're not talking. And I began to have this bit of fear, because again, I'm just like, I don't want to go back down this road. I know we're supposed to be together, da, 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 and the enemy plays on your fear. And so that's when you have to stop and you say, wait a minute, wait, this is just a test,
Hmm.
And so that helped me and him, because my husband is really not a talker. So
Hmm.
it helped me to understand some things about him as well. And to find out that men during this pandemic, they were just as fearful. They were scared of because they didn't know what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of men were the providers of the home and they got laid off during it. So they're trying to deal with these emotions, or they're unable to go see their adult kids, or they're unable to see their mothers. Like for him, he was unable to see his mom, when he's used to seeing her once a month,
Mm-hmm.
and now she can't come here, he can't go there. So I didn't realize that all of this played a part on men as well. So for me as a woman, I had to step out of my own feelings and say, oh, okay, let me be of some help to him,
Mm-hmm.
because right now it's all about me. I'm just like, okay, I need my husband to be here for me because I'm losing it from school. I'm trying to teach at home, this and another, but not really even thinking about how's he feeling. And I remember one day, this was going into the months when we were really able to calm down and just kind of readjust. And I asked him, I said, well, how are you doing with everything? And he looked at me, and the first thing he'll tell me, don't put me on the couch. Because he know. I'd be like, so how you doing? I'd be trying to act like I'm a psychologist. He'd be like, don't put me on the couch. And I said, no, no, I'm just really asking. He said, honestly, I don't know. He said, I don't know what all of this is. And I said, okay. And for the first time, I heard a different person.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think with relationships, if you're during the pandemic, we were able to hear each other, but just really being able to sit down and listen to each other and during because men don't express they're
No.
not going to express what they're going through. They just going to keep going. They just go,
Mm-hmm.
keep going. And so when he told me that, and I looked at him, I said, oh, so you're dealing with it in your own way and you don't know how. So we really had to work together. We really had to work together, and we had to set some rules, like those boundaries again. Even though we're married, we still had to set those boundaries within our own home. And one of those boundaries were, you know what, when you come home from teaching, or when you're logging off from teaching, I'm gonna give you your space.
Mm-hmm.
You go take a walk, you go take, a breather, go take a nap or something, and then we'll come back and talk about it. That may be an hour or two. And I was like, okay, that's fine. And so that gave me the permission to say, oh, okay, because I was frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm dealing with my own frustrations, but then I'm taking it out on him. He's taking it out on me. And so we set that boundary. So I think with couples during this pandemic, we really got a chance to listen to each other and really say, it's okay to be scared,
Mm-hmm.
because it's the unknown.
Right.
So and so that's the reality of the relationships, um not the relationship goes, because the reality. And even now, like you said, as things are opening up, we still have to be mindful. Hey, COVID is still out there. We still need to remain safe. We may have a little bit, a little bit more freedom where we can go and maybe go with, you could go see your mom, or we can go with visit some friends, but still it's still out here. So we still have to, be mindful of that. So the communication has gotten better. Put it like that. The communication has gotten better. And it's just like, okay, we can make it. It's a whole year later. We can make it.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. But
Yes,
I think
Lord.
like that's a win. But I think it also gives some lessons and some tools for couples who are in them. I mean, we don't know when we're going to be free to really just live a life,
Yes,
but
exactly.
to teach us how to learn to one communicate.
Yeah.
Like you said, you had to hear his side. You heard
Mm,
what was in your own mind and what was going on between your ears, but what was going on in him, and being able to
right.
step back and say, okay, let's deal with both of what's going on with each
Hmm.
other, and that begins to open up some doors so that 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 split doesn't happen, because now I'm seeing you, I'm hearing you, and we
Yeah.
work through this. So I think that's a really valuable lesson, and I hope those who are watching tonight will really understand. you have to hear each other. You have to
Yeah.
be open to that conversation. And you
Yeah.
have to say that we're going to work through this, but it first starts with that understanding. Let me gain some
Mhm,
clarity, gain some
mhm.
understanding. And
Yeah.
even having to pray and say, hey, help me to shut my mouth so I can
Yeah.
hear.
Exactly. I was like, Jesus, and I remember one day he said, go in your closet. I said, you told me that. He said, go in your closet. That's my prayer closet. I said, oh, okay. So he knew, it's like he turned it on me. I said, okay, I'm going in my closet then. I'm going to pray in my closet. But again, it's that communication piece, and I still pray for those couples who are still going through it because again, there may have been some things that needed to I say that this season of the pandemic season has exposed good and
Mhm,
bad, you
mhm,
know, and I'm not an advocate for divorce. As you know, we're not advocates for divorce, but I think too a lot of people were in relationships that were um that were very toxic,
yeah.
and they didn't have a way out, and this may have been a way out for them to say, both of us need to part ways because we're not healthy for either one, for each other or for the children or whatnot. And again, I say that with um I don't take that I don't advocate for divorce, but what I'm saying is it exposed a lot that you needed to discuss in your relationship. A lot of times I believe people did not, they just overlooked some things that had happened over time. And remember, these are emotions that have built up over time
Mhm.
and you just hadn't had a chance to talk to. So now you're like stuck with each other and you're like, you can't go nowhere, and then boom, you just blow up. So I think that's what happened too with a lot of couples. Unfortunately, people did get divorced, and they just didn't know how to handle it. So I'm praying that people really were able to turn things around during this time in their relationships as well.
And I think that brings us to one of the final things, and I always say that it can be an episode all by itself, is that person who has had to go through the divorce, the woman that has had to experience it. And as we said, we know what it's like. It's
Yeah.
a scary thing, a painful thing. It can be a
Yes.
liberating thing at some point, but all of it is just a plethora of emotions. But for
Yeah.
that woman who is now saying, I'm ready to move on. I'm ready to either heal or start my life, give myself permission to live again. What advice would you give to that person? Because divorce is painful and you start to have
Yes.
to deal with the trust issues and believing in
Hmm.
yourself again and all of that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
What would you say to that person tonight who is now on this side of, they've dealt with the isolation, they've dealt with
Mhm.
the emotions of divorce? How do I kick off my life
Yeah.
in that, either through healing or just next steps?
I would definitely suggest to women um, who are looking to move forward. First of all, don't jump into a new relationship. I always tell people, don't jump into it until you are completely, and when I say completely, when you're able to look at that person, your ex, or that phone number or picture, and you can be like, thank you, Lord, I was removed. But if you still looking at that picture and you bringing up and you getting upset, you sweating, and you explode, you're not ready. Because what you don't want to do, you don't want to bring that toxicity over to a new relationship. And that's what's going to happen. Then you're going to create another cycle. So I suggest to women all the time, heal, heal. That healing can take it's really up to you. For me, it took 8.5 years to heal, where I had to just literally be stripped of everything, and I really had to take a look at myself and to say what's some things that I need to change up for me. So I always tell women, heal first before you jump into anything else. Know what you want. It's okay to reinvent yourself. Reinvent yourself, learn yourself, reinvent yourself. strut that new self, and then you're able to communicate to whomever, to say, hey, this is me now, this is what I want, and this is what I deserve. You have to put yourself first. You have, and that, again, that's where that self-love, self-care, we talk about self-care. It's more than getting our hair and nails done and our makeup done. It's actually working on that mental, like you stated last week. It's working on that mental, it's working on that spiritual. So when you want to move, because all of us want to move on, we
Mhm.
don't want to be stuck, we want healthy relationships. And also know that God's timing is perfect timing. For me, I didn't understand that either, because again, I was like, I want to get married. I want to have me a friend, and I'm looking at everybody else, you know. And I remember one day I was sitting in the room, all of my friends were out either with their husbands or their significant others. And I'm literally at home, and I just cried. I was like, I'm ready to date. And God was like, no, you're not. You're not ready. And I'm looking at him. I'm like, yes, I am. I'm ready. He was like, no, you're not ready. So, but again, that's because I still had some healing to do. I was still upset. I was still torn by what happened from the divorce and whatnot. But when you know that you're ready, when you're able to look at that picture, them old wedding photos and the old boyfriend photos, and you can look at it and say, thank you, Jesus. You healed me, you removed me. But I promise you, if you still having them feelings where you just, you ain't ready. So, I let women know, heal yourself first, set those expectations, reinvent yourself. There was a time where I knew, like, I love the color purple. That's my color. But then also in the process of reinventing myself, I was like, hey, I like this color, that color. I like all of those colors. I like to do this, that, and other. It was like, oh, wow, this is me. So when you're getting it to present, and you know what? And also, stop searching. Stop searching. It's going to come, let it come organically.
Mhm.
It's going to come organically. You know what I'm saying? So, and I know what, I can't tell you how to get it. I can't tell you 10 steps on how to get a man. Somebody asked me that. I'm like, I said, I can't tell you. I said, because the process will include you taking a deeper look at yourself, and many of us are not ready for that journey.
Mhm.
So you have to be ready for that. When you're really ready to look deep inside of who you are and make those necessary changes, then you'll be ready for that next relationship. But please, women, do not get involved. If you just got a divorce, don't get involved with the next person. Give yourself time to heal, give yourself time to breathe. That's a lot. Relationships are a lot.
Yes.
It's a lot. It's not TV. you know, it's not relationship goal Instagram pictures now. It's a lot. So that's what I would suggest. Just give yourself time to heal.
Give yourself time to heal and give yourself time to identify who you are now post marriage.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
you
Yeah.
were one person in the relationship. Now you're a new person outside of it. So I think
Yes.
that is excellent advice. Give yourself time to heal and be okay with that. Somebody asked me, "What
Exactly.
I'm healing."
Yes.
Hashtag healing.
Yeah.
Well, in our final few minutes, this has been so helpful, and I'm sure there are many women that have been helped on tonight. How can people get in contact with you?
You can reach me on all social media platforms, Trinette L. Collier, and on my website, I am TrinetteLCollier.com. If you need to book a discovery call, you can. That is a free 10-minute discovery call. And if you want to book sessions, you can go onto the website and book your sessions. But if you just need, honestly, if you just need to breathe, you can DM me, you can contact me on Instagram or whatnot. And so I could just send you some love. But you can reach me on all social media platforms, Trinette L. Collier, and the website, I am TrinetteLCollier.com.
And they can follow you on Saturday mornings with your You Got Mail. How
Yes,
can
that
they
you
follow the
got
show?
mail. Yes. Every Saturday morning from 10 to 12. And that is the opposite. I'm still coaching, but it's for men, black men. So it's very interesting. It's funny. So tune in. You can get some nuggets, as women. And yeah, tune in every Saturday from 10 to 12.
Awesome. Well, we want to say thank you. You are truly an exceptional woman. You personify what we hope to demonstrate to women, letting them know that you can overcome divorce, you can build a brand, you can reinvent yourself, and you can live at a higher standard. I believe God has made us unique. And so we have to learn to stop trying to be status quo, but to learn to be that exceptional woman that we are created to be. So I thank you tonight for
I
all
thank
your
you.
wisdom. You
I
are
thank
awesome.
you.
Thank
You are
you.
too. I am so super proud of you, and thank you so much for just the opportunity. This is something we both love doing, helping. So I thank you as well.
Yes, we love helping people, and we wanted to make sure we help during this Women's History Month to let women know that it's okay to be your best self, your greatest self. Do you and be that exceptional woman. So we encourage you go to our Facebook page if you have not followed us at Exceptional Living. You can also see our exceptional woman gear. So you can get your exceptional t-shirt or sweatshirt or whatever. We have that for you, but we want to stay connected with you so that we can continue to grow because we're in this journey just like you. We have not been perfected. We still have room to grow. We're still learning. We're still growing and becoming the women that we are supposed to be. So we want to connect with you. So make sure you do that in the end. And if you missed it from the beginning, the replay will be available both on our Facebook page as well as on our YouTube channel. So you can check that later and you'll be able to share it with others and let other women see that it's time for us to get ourselves together, both with self and in our relationships. So, no, we'll be here next Thursday night. So, go ahead and pin it down next Thursday at 8 o'clock for the Exceptional Woman Reboot, our third night. And so, you don't want to miss that. And so, make sure you follow Trinette and get some more information, continue to heal and grow in your relationships. And so, we just want to just wish God's greatest blessings upon you as you go forward and that you are empowered to know that you are an exceptional woman and go be that. Let the world know, say hashtag the exceptional woman. I am her. And so we want to exude that in the world because we need to be light in the midst of all this darkness. So until next time, just continue to follow us, continue to watch us, and continue to know that you are the exceptional woman. Good night. Thank you, Trinette.
Good night. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.